Welcome to Bootstrap Businessmen, the podcast devoted to the aspiring entrepreneur on a shoestring budget. Here are your hosts, #1 best-selling fitness author Dale L. Roberts and the Midwest's best, Kevin S. Allen.
Okay, welcome to Bootstrap Businessmen, the podcast. I was going to call it the Codpast. Good Lord, I'm not excited here today. Welcome to Bootstrap Businessmen, the podcast devoted to developing the entrepreneur within on a shoestring budget. And today we have a super special guest at a super special time. She is not only on the cover of Oxygen magazine, my wife actually pulled it out the other day. I was like, look, she's going to be on your show. She's a business owner, CrossFit competitor, Olympic lifter, head trainer, most recently a NASCAR pit crew front tire changer, as well as an Amazon #1 best-selling author of the Badass Body Diet. We got to welcome Christmas Abbott to the show. Christmas, how are you feeling, baby?
Oh, man, after that intro, I'm feeling good.
Now we're going to call it a day here because, you know, I'm going to mess up at some point.
Oh man, I love your energy, and you
thank you very much. It's funny because it always shocks people. It's like cold water being thrown in because I'm usually just really quiet and just relaxed, and then we turn this on and it's time to go. So
that's right.
Just got off another interview just before us, and boy, you seem like you're ever busy and you're always traveling. So man, before I get too excited. There might be some viewers that have never heard of Christmas Abbott. So, Christmas, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you're at today?
You know, my background was that I was not a natural-born athlete, and I got into a lot of trouble, did a lot of drugs, and made a lot of bad decisions. And in my mid-20s, I worked overseas as a civilian contractor and had some income into my camp and realized that the last decade was really bad for me, and I wanted to make changes. And that mindset was what trajected me into the life that I found today and who I really, really want to be. And that person is somebody that lives life full force and with utmost passion with everything that I do. And I never want to look back and say, I wish I would have. And I just want to look back and go, that was a good fucking run.
Nice.
Yeah. So. And then subsequently, I've done all those other things because I just want to try it all.
Yeah, you seem like you have your hand in on a lot of things. You share something so much in common with my wife. She loves to do a little bit of everything because it keeps it exciting. Is that the case for you? Do you get bored if you stay on any one particular thing?
You know, I would say yes, but I've actually ate the same breakfast for the last decade. So... you know, I love just being challenged, and I think that that's where the need for something new and something different comes in, where I want to know that I'm pushing my limits. And what does that look like? Well, as soon as I push my limits and conquer something, I'm not like throwing it out. I still love it, and I still want to foster whatever it is that I'm doing, but I also want to try something new and really ultimately challenge myself again. So I think that your wife, I can imagine, if she's also an Oxygen fan as I am, that she needs to be challenged consistently versus just trying something easy. You know, can't do easy.
It's an easy way out, but in any event, man, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to touch on, and I definitely want to get over to your feature on the front cover of Oxygen magazine, because I mean, I haven't been on the cover lately, so I don't really know what it's like or how to get there. All joking aside, so you started to tell just a little bit about your journey and such, and is it my understanding that fitness has not been your priority your entire life, kind of like me, where it just, you know, over the last decade and a half for me has been a love of mine. But prior to that, I was, you know, kind of following the same path that you were, where I was like really focused a lot on not fitness.
Yeah, I was focused a lot on good parties and hosting good parties and having all the party favors at the good parties. You know, I definitely, I mean, I've always thought that I've done things well, and I partied really well. Uh, and, but ultimately, I used it as a crutch. I used that lifestyle as a crutch. I used my experience and my, environment growing up as a crutch, and it was a cop-out because I was scared to see what I was capable of, and I didn't know how to apply myself, and I didn't know how to accept failure or ridicule, and I didn't have the self-worth that I have now that tells me, like, look, Christmas, it's yours to take or yours to leave. And I think I was 22 before I went overseas. I ran my first mile when I was 22, and it destroyed me. I couldn't walk right for a week. I literally was like hobbling around, and to be honest, I was like, screw fitness. That's stupid. I didn't want anything to do with it. But I really was like, you guys are crazy. And ultimately, really what happened is I was in an environment that had very limited means, where you either drink, and I was trying not to do that, you play poker, not interested in giving my money away, and then, or you work out. And after a couple months of more boredom, I was like, well, I'm going to try this fitness thing again, but I tried it on my own terms. And found the elliptical, fell in love, and eventually saw results, and the rest was kind of history. I ran with it. The elliptical was like my gateway drug into fitness.
Gateway drug. It's really nice, though. It's a really low impact. It really kind of helped me out, especially with a lot of my injuries from wrestling and such. I found ellipticals were just awesome. So,
yeah.
Do you continue?
They get a bad rap, but they were great, and they still are. So if you see somebody on elliptical, do not laugh at them. They are finding their fitness.
Absolutely, finding that fit. But do you use ellipticals to this day? I'm just kind of curious.
No.
Okay. All right.
No.
I'm not ashamed. I mean, you're doing tons of other things, as far as, staying in shape. And I've seen.
I just don't use machines.
You were touring all over the place in support of, your Badass Body diet and Badass Body plan. Obviously, I want to kind of transition. What happened between, you got hooked on fitness, but how did that transition over into a business? Because it wasn't like you probably got in shape and then someone was knocking on your door going, you should get into business.
It was people think that it just happened recently, but I've been working on this since 2004 when I found fitness. And it wasn't a conscious decision at the time. But you find something that you're interested in and you have passion for. And, at first it's a hobby or a favorite pastime, and then it becomes a little bit more of a lifestyle, and then it bleeds into, well, how do I make this a living? It just was, honestly, mine was really organic. It's hard work. So I'm not going to say that it's organic in the sense that it's easy. Those are two very different subjects. But ultimately, I just kept implementing it more and more into my life, and there was a point where I had a job offer to go work with Northrop Grumman. Great job offer, and considering that I was still in my mid-20s, I should have taken it. Paper to paper, it was the winner by far. But instead, I stayed in Raleigh, and I decided that I was going to keep doing this boot camp thing that I kind of had made up. And people thought I was out of my mind because I was forfeiting almost a six-figure job to make, almost poverty level at the time. They're thinking I'm barely in. I think at this time I was actually on food stamps because I couldn't make ends meet. And, I just loved it so much, and it made me so happy. And I discovered that I'd rather be poor and happy than rich and not living the life that I wanted. So luckily for me, it worked out only because I wake up and I work, I go to sleep and I'm thinking about my work, and I dream about it. And I want to try everything. So I want to try and implement it and see if it works. And if it doesn't, okay, great. I'm going to shelf it. Not necessarily always discard it because it may work at a different time. Mm-hmm. But you live, eat, breathe, wholehearted your business if you want it to be truly successful. And you'll find that the best entrepreneurs live the life they advocate. And because then they're just becoming a subject matter expert through and through. So it was a long process, but I believed in the potential that it had more than I wanted that paycheck and that security. I knew that whatever I decided to do, if I failed, I would always be able to go back and figure out, I could wait table. I would be able to make $1 and live my life. But I wanted to be able to find a way to live my life that I loved.
That's nice. You did it on your own terms. I think, Kevin, this is something you can probably relate to in the fact that you were working a six-figure-a-year job and being miserable. Tell us a little bit about that, Kevin. And, of course, obviously, I don't want to take over the entire interview.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. I'm actually in a little remote area, by the way, Christmas. I'm not usually in my car. Yeah, you like it? It's beautiful scenery around here. I could roll down the windows and you could hear all the cicadas going off right now, but it gets a little overwhelming. No, I truly loved what you just said. You can figure out anything to make $1. Beautiful. But living a life you love, see, that's what I did. I walked away and I was at that six-figure-a-year income, but miserable. I was gone 70, 80 hours a week, never seeing my daughter, my partner, nothing. My wife was just like, raising my kid, and I never even knew what was going on. So I had to make a decision and make that happen. And, I tell you what, I'm glad for overnight success, or my business wouldn't be as where it is today. Wouldn't you agree? Overnight success is where it's at, right? That was actually a joke.
Yeah, that's called surgery, or I don't know, being like inheritance or something. I don't know. Yeah. I can't even wrap my head around it. Yeah. But yes.
Yes. No. Honestly, where truly, did this motivation all of a sudden it just clicked with you? Where did that come from?
It was a lot of work, and so when I decided that I literally had this life or death epiphany, and I just knew that if I kept making the same types of decisions that I was going to make, I was going to kill myself. On a long enough timeline, I was going to lose. And there was no intention of living this amazing life. I just wanted something better. And I know that I say this all the time in the sense that you wake up every day with an opportunity to change your life. You just have to make the decision of wanting something more. And when I talk about more, I'm not talking about a grandiose, like a huge push towards something. I'm talking about just instead of smoking 5 cigarettes, smoke 4. It doesn't have to be perfect. But you're making better choices. And I'm not advocating smoking. Disclaimer. But I was a smoker for 9 years. And I understand what it takes to quit. I understand the addiction. I understand having something hold on to you that you're like, if you stay on that path and keep making those decisions, where it's going to lead. And you see it in other people and you're like disgusted by them, but then you're doing the same thing. And you get to choose whether or not you continue to make those decisions. So my tenacity with life really comes from, man, I have so much ground to make up. And yeah, it's been 10 years since that, plus a little bit. But I just wanted to make sure that I always make myself proud. Of course I want to make my parents proud and I want to live a beautiful life, but ultimately I want to look back and go, I did everything that I wanted to do. And that motivation comes from that little girl that was always scared to say something, or really wanted to be on the volleyball team but didn't do it, and really wanted to cheerlead but didn't try out. And I never want to feel that depth of pain anymore. And so it just takes a long time to mentally put you there. And you just got to wake up and say, today's going to be a good day. And, with your workout, I'm the baddest bitch in here. You don't have to believe it initially. You won't believe it initially. But over time, having that mantra and continuously putting things of reminders everywhere and allowing your mind to be positive instead of allowing that negative to take control and poison your ability, That's where it's about, is just having it, starting with the mind. Everything else follows suit. You know, and because he just passed recently, Muhammad, you know, he said that he was the best there ever was before he believed it himself. He was saying it, and he was the best ever. And it's something compelling about the power of the mind. And ultimately, you got to train it the same way you train your body.
Do you ever have an off day?
My mind? No. This thing's running all the time. For my mind, I am learning more about meditation, and there's an ebb and flow in everything. You can't go 100% all the time. And that's why I love yoga. Sure. That's why I love meditation. That's why I love, like, on my off training days, to go for a walk. And in the mornings to have a moment of being a thankfulness and being mindful of what my intentions for that day are, and being mindful of what I'm doing in the moment that I'm doing it. Most people are completely disconnected. It's like they're walking, that Sudafed commercial where they're walking around with their head on the balloon. That's like the majority of society. I am not successful this way because I do things better, or I'm a faster runner, or I'm a stronger lifter. I do things, I'm as successful as I am because I pulled that balloon and attached it to my head and turned my brain on. And there's something also very powerful about that. So days off, yes, but being cognizant of what my actions are full on every day.
Beautiful. So you're basically, what you're saying is just be present no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and people don't understand that. They're like, oh, well, then I won't look at my phone, but I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. And it's a practice, you know. We have 2 ears, one mouth for a reason. People don't use it in that way. Obviously, like, I'm running rampant right now in the same way.
No, you are fine. This is your show, so you know you talk away.
But exactly that. They're not present, and you know that's why so many people have issues with relationships and business partners, and they lose clients, or they aren't as successful as they want to be, or where they want to be, is because they ultimately they half-ass it, even though they're not aware that they're half-assing it.
Very, very good point. Anybody that's just tuning in, obviously we got a handful of viewers that are in here live with us. Please, folks, if you are watching this live, you can actually submit questions in that we can ask Christmas. She said, you know, no holds barred, ask away, and we'll make sure to get that communicated. For those of you that are listening this on podcast, you know, week, 2 weeks, 2 years from now, sorry, the live features obviously shut off. But Christmas, so now you have so many different avenues that you're able to take advantage of. And one of the things I've noticed is you have an amazing social media reach. How have you built something like that? Because obviously you weren't just handed thousands of followers.
No, and I never bought any followers either. It's funny how all these celebrities lose like multiple millions of followers when they put in that algorithm that took away all the fake followers. Mm-hmm. But mine wasn't deserved, and I felt really proud of that. Ultimately, you know, I was exposed to Facebook, and my friend was like, you should do a fan page. And I was like, why do I do a fan page? And, you know, just that initial self-doubt that most everybody has. And so I created it, and I just asked. I was like, what am I supposed to say on here? For my Facebook, I did a lot of the workouts. I filmed my workouts, gave workout tips, and people loved it and ran with it. And then for my Instagram specifically, I just posted things that I loved and really enjoyed and wanted to share. And then for my Snapchat, I wanted for people to understand that this glamour life, because everything, Facebook and Instagram is polished. But for Snapchat, I wanted them to understand that this is a lot of work, and that it doesn't stop, and it's ins and outs, ups and downs, and I wanted to be really, really truthful and authentic with them as much as I possibly could. So every platform has a different intention, and the biggest thing is authenticity. If I don't use it, if I don't like it, if I don't do it, I don't post it. And these people, you know, authenticity is running rampant. It's a word that we hear a lot, especially with like entertainment and social media. You want to be authentic. That doesn't mean like being outrageous, but that just means like speaking from your heart and talking about things that you truly believe in, and not just doing a paid post because they threw some money at you, but you've never tried their product and you've never done, you know, whatever it may be. And I know that my followers appreciated that from the very beginning, and that's something that's important for me to maintain. So if I endorse something, it's because I actually use it or I have used it. But I don't ever want to come out as unauthentic. And I think they know immediately when you aren't, like immediately. But ultimately it grew just because I had a positive message. I was loud about it and posted everything that I loved.
That's tremendous. It was actually one of the ways I found you, and I think it really speaks to hopefully some of the business owners that are tuning in. I found you through your fan page, and actually that's where I continue to follow you through is through Facebook fan page. I'd never heard of you before, and it was because I liked other pages that were similar. A few IFBB pros. I think maybe Pauline Norden probably was one of the ones, and I just happened to stumble on this Christmas Abbott, and that's when I really became hooked because of your authenticity. And sometimes just the fact that it's like you have no reservation and saying a curse word or two, and I'm just like, fuck yeah, I like this girl. I'm like, yeah.
Right.
So,
it's
just
my mug.
yes, actually, mine's in the cupboard. I was gonna run and grab it.
That's all right.
But yeah, I love the fact that you speak without the filter. It speaks and talks to me, and it's so funny because from time to time I get a little bit of flack because on this show we let it fly. Expletives are okay. We're not afraid of doing that, and I think that authenticity really does speak to a specific audience. Is there ever a time that you have to put the filter on and cover that up?
You can never go wrong with a properly placed fuck. And
yes.
So there was a group that I spoke for locally in Raleigh, and the average age was like 50 and above, and I just wanted to be respectful. And I do keynote speeches now, and I tether it a little bit, but I drop it every time. And I'm unapologetically me in a way that there's nothing wrong with being able to use a cuss word or two to emphasize your point. Now, there is a point about cussing like continuously and using it in replace of words that you just don't know what to replace it with. So there is a
Sure.
kind of a like genre or a kind of image that if you cuss a lot, then you're just uneducated because you can't think of better words to use. And that's fine, but I love coming in and being, well-spoken, especially with a keynote speech or something, and having a really elegant speech, and then dropping the F-bomb because it's emphasis. It's like an exclamation point at the end of the sentence. It's using your arms. It drives home the point. Okay, and when it's proper, it's really, really great. So I mean, I have tattoos. I cuss. It is what it is, and I embrace it, and I think that, again, it goes with authenticity. So I try not to be too polished. There's definitely a pressure to become polished, but you just got to kind of say, you have to remember who you are and what you want and what your message is.
That's so cool that you show no compromise to who you are, and I think that speaks tremendously to you. And I'm sorry, I rabbit trailed on that one. I actually wanted to stay on social media because I'm curious. It seems like you get a good frequent amount of posts put up, especially between three different avenues, being Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Is there any other forums that you're using besides those three?
I have one on my website, and then I have my Badass Body Facebook and my Badass Body Instagram, who I dictate, but I don't actually post on those. all of my personal ones, fan page ones, I do 100%. That's all me. And yeah, I feel, there was a company that came in one time that wanted to do it for me. And they're like, oh, we hear your voice. And I was like, okay, I'm busy training. I was like getting ready to go to the CrossFit Games, but you can try this. And within 3 posts, I called him and said, this isn't going to work. It was just really vanilla. And there's nothing wrong with vanilla. But I'm like, rocky road. and it's important that, social media is a platform for your brand. And there's Facebook, there's speeches, there's, whatever platform you have will enhance your brand if you allow it to. So one thing about social media is you have to know what your voice is, what your branding representation looks like, what message you want to get out there, who your demographic is. It is a business strategy. And if you're just posting random things, which I did for years, but as a business, my business is me, so it worked. But if you're working a business in, like if you're a beverage company and you're working a certain business, then you can't just post random things that do not align with what you're trying to say. And along the lines with that, you have to be cognizant of what you do post, and how you say it and who you want to attract. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that it's such a business strategy in making sure you have a clear concept of your brand before you just start ripping and roaring on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. A kind of a customer avatar, if you will. How were you able to distinguish who your avatar was?
Well, like I said, like my brand is me, which works well because I really wanted, and this wasn't intentionally in the beginning. This is what it evolved to. But I wanted to, through my message and my experience, let people know, specifically young women and women, that young ladies and women, that they get to dictate their lives and they get to choose how great they become, regardless of your circumstances beforehand. And my successes have been contributed to my desire to prove to my old self that I can. And that I can change my destiny, my future, and become something great where I didn't think that I could before. So I really try and continue to align that message out there. And it does get lost with, doing like inked magazine covers where I'm sprinting naked, but I love my body. And so that's in line with my message too. You get one, people. You get one single body your entire life. And you get one life to do something great. Why not love your body and do something great with it? It's artwork. It is the most superior machine in this world to anything that we can create. And most of the people hate their bodies, and I just can't wrap my mind around it anymore. And I just want people to understand that they have that choice. So it was important for me to put that out there via social media, and it's getting louder and louder.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting into it, you've got these 3 different avenues. You're posting on all those. It seems pretty frequently. How do you manage that? Is there some kind of an app that you have, or are you just doing this all via your cell phone?
All the time. I have a good memory storage in my phone. Sometimes I'll just go through and see hashtags and I'll repost and put a message on there. And, so for example, typing. At first when you start typing, you're like doing the double finger, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm going to use the other fingers. And you go, shit, I messed up a couple times. And you do it a few times and you're like, oh, I messed up again. And then you get a whole sentence without messing up and you're improving it, right? Yeah. This is technique intensity training. And then finally you're working proficiently, and then you're rocking and rolling, doing like 67 words a minute. And that is the same way that you train with anything that you want, talking about meditation, talking about being present, talking about social media, and So for me, I know my routine. I've integrated it into my routine. If I don't post, then oh well, that's okay. And if I post 5 times in a day, then you're welcome. And then sometimes I go ham, and there's like literally a 5-minute storyline on my Snap feed, and people, I see the numbers go down. I'm like, well, that's okay, because you don't have to see everything that I do. It's just being aware. For me, it's knowing my schedule, knowing what I want to put out there. It's not scheduled. It's not intentional. With the exception of like if I'm promoting something, then I know that I want to get it in before a certain deadline for like the oxygen challenge. I want people to know about that. But ultimately, I've just integrated it into my daily routine. Long version for a short answer.
Yeah, completely understood. I think there's a lot of people that are always looking for certain strategies, and I think it really shines a light on something that a lot of people always been kind of curious of, because obviously you're very successful through social media. So there's always been, some people will say, oh, 4 p.m. at this time, every day you can be able to get more followers, this and that. I wasn't sure if there was a particular strategy that you were doing with yours, but it sounds like you're just kind of like, you just go at it, and when it needs to be specific, you'll pick a very strategic time. Have you discovered any specific strategic time that has worked for you business-wise?
It's so funny because people are finicky, and what's worked for me, like mornings, I like posting because I want to be able to give people that mantra before they get started, and then evenings I post before I go to bed. In the middle of the day I post, but ultimately, there's peak times, but there's also just random times where I posted on a Friday night at 11 p.m. and it went crazy. So, the thing is that you just have to kind of experiment it with yourself, experiment it for yourself, not with yourself. And sometimes. And
oh man. You set yourself up on that one. We didn't do that one.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. Love it.
Experiment.
You made my day.
Gotcha. Well, let me shift gears.
That's easy to follow up on, huh?
Woo. Got real warm real quick. Well, gee whiz. Kevin, dude, you've been awful quiet over there, baby. I know that you've got something for her, so let's go ahead and pick up this ball. We'll run with it.
Oh, man, your message so far has been, right on the money as far as what it takes, the mindset, everything. I want to know, with your celebrity, the cover of Oxygen magazine, everything that you're doing, how do you keep yourself so humble?
There's times that you need to be humble and times that you shouldn't be humble. So I wake up every day knowing that this is God's gift for me and this is my purpose. And when you stop appreciating that, then the gifts stop coming. And whether I decide to retire tomorrow and I'm like, I'm not doing anymore, I'm going to get off social media and start, doing whatever I want to do in my favorite pastime, that's my choice to make. And that's an incredible feeling, to be able to be somewhere where you get to decide to keep pushing what you're doing and your passion, or you get to retire and do whatever you want. I'm not talking about financially, but the choices. And so you have to continuously stay humble and appreciative of that ability. And I just look back and I think about my life growing up, and my parents were amazing. I love them. They are my biggest fans, and they are my biggest believers. But I also I don't want to struggle the way that they struggled, or struggle the way that I struggled earlier on in life. So I have to remember where I came from constantly. And on the opposite side, sometimes you got to walk in and just know you're going to dominate the room. And there's a time that you have to have that pride, and you have that experience, you have that pride. You go in there still willing to learn something, but also ready to school some bitches. And
Nice.
there's a time and place for both.
Absolutely. My goodness. So many good take-home points today. This is so fantastic. So, has there ever been a point that you said, I made it? Have you ever been like, okay, I made it, I can ease off the gas? Or is there ever any time that you say, man, I'm successful, I'm good at this level?
There's been a lot of I made it. But also at the same time, pressing that gas, I remember it was several years ago, about 4 years ago, I was driving to the airport doing a weekend seminar for CrossFit HQ, and I had somebody tell me one time that I would never be an HQ coach, that I wasn't good enough of an athlete or a coach to be able to do that. And I'm driving by, and I look to my left, and there's my gym that was also told that I would never be a successful, business owner. And I'm looking at it, and people are driving up and going inside, and I like being a fly on the wall, ironically enough, and I'm watching them come in and to go get this experience, whatever it may be for them that day. And I'm driving to do this other dream job, and I was just like, this is it. I made it. I made it. And at the same time, it creates such a panic in me that, like, at the time I was like 28, I was like, well, what now? What do I do now? And so I kept doing what I was doing, but you just kind of keep searching for a new challenge, not something to fill your heart, but to challenge you in a new way, because you have accomplished what you thought was impossible. And now let's find out what that next mountain is. So there's been a lot of both.
Wow, what's your next challenge then right now? I have to find out.
Wow.
I'm writing my second book, and it's thrilling and terrifying. And the other one is that it's corporate wellness, but ultimately it's an app for being able to plug into the fitness regimen and the nutrition aspect, and have like the guidelines of my book, but also a little bit of other nutrition guidelines. And I'm just making a really cool app. And those two are really big projects. And physically, I sustained an injury last year at the American Open for weightlifting, and I've been rehabbing my body. It's amazing how you have to change your regimen to accommodate your experience and age. And my body's not liking the high volume stuff anymore. So it's like better reps, less reps, and just making sure that I'm still training for life and not getting too wrapped up in the competition aspect of it.
Wow, yeah. So you're just not looking not only just at a business standpoint, but you're also thinking of a personal standpoint. What would be, if you had a magic wand that you could wave, what would be the ultimate goal for you to achieve that you haven't done already?
Like this year?
In life in general. In general.
The big fat goal, right?
Yeah.
Just one?
You give me a few. You go ahead.
You see me, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be, I don't want to stop. I just love this stuff so much. Mm-hmm. I would love to do a TED Talk. Nice. I would also, with this app, I'm really hoping to be like the Oz behind the curtain in the health and wellness spectrum of I want people to, specifically, so I want to do corporate wellness, not because of corporations, but the head rot, it rots from the head down, and it also inspires from the head down. So
yes.
Take a negative analogy and turn it into a positive. And ultimately with this app or this program, so it'd be a series of breakouts and seminars, it could influence people by hundreds of thousands where they don't know I'm the influencer. And to me, that's like the ultimate accomplishment of changing people's lives, and they don't even know that I'm doing it. I'm like ghosting them over here, and I don't need to be that figurehead. I just want to make sure that they have an avenue to find the inspiration and motivation and resources that they need in order to be able to change their life. That's my ultimate goal.
That is really awesome. That's such a higher level and higher way of thinking. You're
Wow.
leaving a legacy without having to put your name on it.
Isn't that, I don't know, I feel like that's like legit.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You sound like you were going to probably share like a couple other big goals. So you've got the one app here. So you were kind of, you know.
That's like the big, I feel like that would be, like you said, I want to leave a legacy, and that legacy entails doing some major things along that line, but also, you know, working with troubled girls home. So I was actually in a girls group therapy when I was a young teenager, because I was, like I said, I was like not all there in the sense of I didn't have a lot of self-worth, and I would love to be able to create some sort of program, and this one is like far off but close to my heart, and be able to create some system that allows them to do experiences and challenges that help create a better self-worth of where they are, regardless of their life circumstances. And that's another home close to the heart project that is a ways out, but something that I've had my finger on for a long time.
Tremendous. That is really awesome. I certainly hope that you're able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
So
It's a matter of time.
yeah, absolutely. It seems like you stay ever busy. Question is, do you ever sleep? I get that one a lot.
I sleep a lot, actually. I am a fan of 9 hours plus. I actually, if I get 6 hours or less, not so fun to hang out with. And I feel it in everything. And sleep is like the rejected recovery. You know, we want to do ice baths and Epsom salt baths and do all of this needling and stretching and everything, but then we still skip on the sleep, and that is the most important recovery aspect of it, period. That's where our body does the magic to recover, and I'm a huge fan, so I sleep a lot. I can't take naps. Once I'm up, I'm up. But I like going to bed early and sleeping and letting my body naturally wake up.
Is that like a regimented schedule for you then?
I try to keep it as close as possible. You know, I try to get bed around 10 o'clock, and, you know, I wake up around 7-ish. And, you know, I love sunlight, so I have the sun comes into my room, and sometimes I wake up at 6, sometimes I wake up at 8. I usually set my alarm not to sleep past 8, just because I like to go work out in the morning. But I'm telling you, if I have a few days where I'm getting like 7 hours of sleep a night, I become unraveled quickly. It's not pretty. Like, I just meltdowns.
Wow. I wish I could be able to do the same thing. I know that I looked over here to my right because my wife is sitting over here, and she's very regimented, and she always says, "How do you do that?" I don't know. There's sometimes I'll just sleep straight 10 hours, and then other nights I'll, like last night, 5 hours. I'm pretty good, you know, ready to go, good to go.
But, you know, and I don't have kids yet, so usually parents are like, never going to happen, not going to happen. I get it, you know, and life happens, but we also have to remember that if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we can't take care of others.
Such a golden rule. Is that something that you teach some of your clientele as well, the people that you're working with and training?
I teach a lot of women of how to put themselves first, and they're like, well, this and that. I'm like,
love it.
You got to be selfish with your time sometimes, and not all the time, but, you know, have that hour during the week that's yours. You know, and you don't talk to anybody, you don't answer your phone, you go do what you want to do, and it's amazing how much that just lifts them up. And yeah, I teach them a lot, and I talk about it in my book too. Like, be selfish, and not in a like terrible way, but sometimes you got to say, nope, my time.
That's so tremendous. You know, for some of the people out there, and you know, hopefully we can, you know, stay on this point just a little bit. People that are looking to start their own business. Let's say, for instance, they're in a job they're miserable at, but they don't know how to get out. What is some advice that you can give to them to make their first steps?
There's a whole laundry list of things for sure. Ultimately, you know, you need to do your research, your due diligence of looking into it, talking to people that are in the industry to get information, what they have done well, what they haven't done well, why did they do it well. The why is really, really important because people just are like, oh, I did this well, but I don't know why. Well, then they were just lucky. And that's, successful businesses aren't lucky. Most of them at least. And then, you know, put a pro forma together. That means you gotta figure out what it's gonna cost you, and not just the basics. Talk to those people and say, what was your overall startup cost? And it's probably gonna be double what they anticipated, but they didn't account for all the contingencies that were gonna come up. You know, if you're opening a gym, you don't count for the nuts and bolts that screw everything together. You don't account for the glue for the wood. I mean, there's tons of these little knickknacks that add up. You know, understanding how to write an SOP. What do you see the perfect day, and how does that flow go? You know, as far as like opening, doing a transaction, talking to interfacing with the clients, how you interact with your employees. Are we going to meet once a week, once a month, or once a year? And when we meet, what does that meeting look like? It's kind of like you have to have this macro skeleton and then branch off each little piece, and it ends up being this massive tree. And then you can actually do an accurate cost analysis, time analysis, and see if it's financially lucrative. I think many people just think that because a few good people make it look easy, and they think that they're just going to be able to follow suit, and also have a contingency plan, you know?
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this is awesome. We've really killed an hour like it's nobody's business.
I know. It was like 15 minutes, baby.
Yeah. Exactly, 15 minutes. That was it. But at any rate, before we do close out the show, I do want to, in the next 24 hours, you have something special that's going to be finishing up, so I want to make sure that we highlight that a little bit. So could you share with me a little bit on that?
Thanks. Oh, man, the magazine's in the other room. So Oxygen Magazine is doing this trainer challenge, and the trainer challenge it's a 90-day program. This is an incredible value where you get 90 days of workouts created by moi, and I have like these things called ham endurance days. It's a really, really fun workout, and you get nutrition guidance. So it's different than the book. In the sense that the workouts are a lot more dynamic. It builds on each month, like the book does, but a bit more different. You have videos. You have a closed private Facebook group that I get in every day, go in there and give some motivation tips and kind of like how-tos, and a whole 90 days. It's pretty incredible. So it's the Oxygen Trainer Challenge 2, and you have to get Coach Christmas.
Yes, it's a must. If anybody's watching this and they don't, stop tuning into our show.
I'm going to stab you.
Nice. My wife's ready to sign up. She's cracking up.
Oh, did she
go? Well, tremendous. And how do they get in on that? Do they need to go get a Oxygen Magazine off the rack, or can they go online somewhere?
They can go to Oxygen Magazine. It's oxymag.com, and there's the trainer challenge there. But today is the last day for it. So it's it. It's either today or never. And I mean, it's pretty awesome. Actually, I want to share this. Actually, I was talking to Jenny before, my like executive assistant, and I get on the Facebook group, and I know I'm hoarding the time right now, but I get on the Facebook group,
you're fine.
And it's it almost puts me into an overwhelming emotional state every day. Like, it brings tears to my eyes to see these women that are like, some of them are only 2 weeks into the program and they're seeing great results. The women are so supportive. It's just, and there'll be like, one girl will post on there and be like, I had a really shitty day. I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to do this. And the girls get on there and just swarm her. And they're like, you can. And she's like, but I did it anyway. And everybody's so proud of her. And then they're just like coaching each other on, hey, you can have a bad day, but don't let this derail you. And just like, it's like having a little army of mini mantras. And it's so incredible. Like, one lady, this woman, and I'm going to show this to you because it's, I'll show it, well, I don't want to, let me see if I can do this. Okay. She started, I'll just throw this. She started at 315, and in 2 weeks, she's at 306.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And I'm not, like, this isn't a crash and burn. This is teaching people how to use the macros properly and how to be accountable for themselves. And she said, progress, exclamation, exclamation. Started at 314.4 a few days ago, down 7.8 pounds. Huge inspiration. I feel good about myself.
She should. That's amazing. That is really good news.
Sorry, I just get so excited about it. I feel good about myself.
You should. That's so awesome.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
That was unexpected. And I didn't show her name, so I hope she doesn't mind. We saw her toes, and she feels good about herself, and she's beautiful.
Well, you should definitely be proud. You should be very proud of the fact that you've created such a huge community in this regard. So hopefully, anybody that's watching this or listening to it right now, please get in on that. That's over, they can get through that through Oxy Magazine.
Oxy Mag. Let me pull it up real fast. I should have it nearby. It's here. Let me pull it up on Facebook. Oxy Mag 2. OxygenMag.com, and it's the Oxy Challenge, and it's prominently on there, so they'll be able to see it as soon as they go. OxygenMag.com.
Excellent, I'm sure.
And they were great to work with. Really stellar team.
That is so cool, and that's. I said we were going to wrap up the show. Now you've opened up a whole can of worms now.
Well, don't follow up.
How did you get in touch with Oxygen Magazine? Did they get a hold of you, or did you get a hold of them?
I worked with Alex, the creative director, a few years ago with the Box Mag, and last year was the first year they did the Oxygen Trainer Challenge, and they had such great results and such great feedback, and he called me, he was like, Kristen, so I want you to do it this year. One, they've never had a tattooed girl on the cover, and two, they've never really embraced the very dynamic style of workouts that I advocate. Not just CrossFit, but there's a little bit different to it. And he's like, are you interested? And I was like, Alex, I've been waiting for this call for years. So I was thrilled to be considered for it, and we went and recorded everything, and they've just been really incredible. He loves seeing this change, like to see an impact in the community. That's his true passion.
That is really, really cool. How many newsstands did you clear off all the magazines to get out to friends and family?
I keep going out. I went out to Barnes & Nobles yesterday, and I shared it on my Snap, and I wanted to take all of them, but I was like, you know what? I have this information. Somebody else needs to pick this up, so I left it. And I called Alex. I was like, Alex, I need a box for my family.
Tremendous. Have you ever gone into like a Barnes & Noble and bought one of your things, and someone like look at you and look down and look up?
No, but I do sneak in and sign my books whenever I'm in a different city. I'll go in and autograph my books, and so when somebody gets it, it's there, it's autographed.
That is so cool. You sneak it in there. So do me a favor, when you're in Phoenix next, I want you to sign a few books because I'm sure I'll probably end up picking them up.
I'm there soon with Rush Club.
Really? How soon is that? I'm sorry to,
like 2 weeks.
You're going to finish the show eventually.
People, it's okay. It's in like 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
It's so soon.
We disconnect here. I want to make sure I get that information from you on that for sure.
Okay, yeah, it's on the 25th.
25th. So, wow. And is there any way, for anybody that's not in Phoenix, or even for the in Phoenix, do you have a schedule that's posted up on, say, your website?
I'm revamping my website right now, so with the new one, it'll have a schedule coming up. But yeah, I'm going to be in Phoenix with the Rush Club Nation, and that's, if you're not in Phoenix, then you can stream that, and that's on their website as well. Oh,
tremendous. Excellent. And is there any last things that you want to share before we disconnect?
Oh, man, I'm just so appreciative for this podcast. This has been a riot. Thank you so much. I don't know. Be fucking unstoppable.
I love it. There's nothing to be able to finish out a show any better. Kevin, any last words, buddy?
Yeah, you said something about a follow-up. Are you opposed to doing...
Well, you talked about having a whole can of worms. We can totally do that soon. Please.
Awesome. Love it. No, honestly, a lot of times when I'm out and about like this, I do apologize for being a little bit more quiet. My audio is a little weird coming across, but let me just say this to you. Thank you so much for being on. This has been very humbling for me. You are one badass human being, not just a lady, but just a human being. Just keep rocking, keep doing, and keep delivering your message.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, very good. Hey, folks, anybody that's tuning in live, we do appreciate it. And Christmas, I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It's really awesome that you took a little bit of time out of your day to share some great knowledge and really some inspiration. So hopefully we've reached a few other people out there and can kind of get them to take action in their lives.
Awesome.
So, Christmas, thank you very much. Everybody else, have yourself a wonderful day.
Bye.
Please support the show by simply shopping at Amazon through the link in the show description. Every time you make a purchase through the provided link, a small percentage of sales goes back to support the show. There's no additional cost to you, and it greatly helps us out. Simply go to the link, bookmark it in your browser, and do your shopping on Amazon while you support the Bootstrap Businessmen podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Bootstrap Businessmen.